Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Flux Motorsport TV. I'm Murphy GBR, going to be bringing you round 4, the halfway point of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. And for those of you that don't quite recognise that rather blurry backdrop as we come out of the end of our practice session, we are heading, or currently arrived, should I say, at the Silverstone National Circuit. Very, very tricky one this week, and it's a love it or hate it kind of track. Much different to what we've had so far in the season. However, we have got lovely clear skies with just a hint of cloud over Silverstone today, so it should be a rather uneventful race weather-wise. But these 6 corners of the National Circuit will be pretty troublesome for all of our field. As we can see, just at the end of that free practice session, Pro Fubby ruling the roost with a 57.832. I've heard rumours that there might be a 57.5 in there, but we'll have to wait and see. Our 20 minutes of qualification is just about to get underway as I retire and spectate. And let me know in the comment section who you're expecting to come out on top for this week, as I give you a little bit of a taste of the championship standings. Alternatively, if you want to be able to check these without trying to add up inside your head, head on over to our social media channels. You'll find all of the latest standings up on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook pages, and you can easily follow us for all of the news and updates for all of our current championships for this season. 7 in total, more than we've ever run before. But Pro Fubby, after last week's victory, comes out on top of the championship standings, 92 points in total. So he's got a 7-point lead to this man that we're following at the moment in the form of Waj. Waj on 85 points. He could only muster 4th place last week. He'll be looking to try and make an improvement on that if he can this week. 3rd place, we've got the Console. He's 15 points behind Waj after a rather calamitous Snetterton 200 in the rain. Did manage to get 3rd place, which saved his bacon ever so slightly, but we've got Lecky 2000 in 4th place in the championship standings, just 5 points behind his good friend and close rival in the Console. So he'll be looking to try and build upon the momentum that he gained last week at Oulton Park. 5th place, we've got Jack de Menzies. He's only 3 points as well away from the back of Lecky, so he'll be able to build upon that should he manage to finish within that top 5 position, provided that Lecky or the Console slip away from it. And then Kovkarl, with I think it was his best performance of the season so far, managed to get up into 5th place. He's currently running 6th in the championship, just ahead of Al Axon on 53 points. 74 Leggy is the better of the 2 Leggies, and they are just separated by 5 points. 74 Leggy on 45 points, and then DJ Leggy down in 9th position on 40 points. Then Old Smokey in 10th position in the championship standings, 26 points, which puts him 4 points ahead of our 11th place Casey Redwood. Green Gaming is in 12th position, following a retirement from Tibby. He will not be joining us for the remainder of the season. Then Porsche Man, who can't make this race this evening, so we've actually got a stand-in with one of our reserves in the form of Mr. Ward. And Porsche Man currently running in 13th place ahead of Deadly Hawk. However, we since have Spankmeyer joining us for the remainder of the championship, and he's not currently on these standing sheets. He did perform very well last week. I think off the top of my head it was a 7th place finish, so he'll actually be at around about I think 13th, maybe even 12th place. So as the lap times start to come in on the hot lap, 17 minutes of this session remaining. Pro Fubby is on top. We've been following Waj around as we can see just how close he gets there to Woodcote, I believe it is. Check. The way that this Silverstone National Circuit works, it's actually sort of 1st and 3rd part of the Silverstone GP circuit. Yep, as we can see now, Waj just coming up to the Maggots and Beckett section, well, half of Beckett's. Then up onto the Wellington Straight, where they'd usually be turning left onto this. So this is going to be the longest straight of the section. These guys in the touring cars are going to want to stick as close as they can to the car in front of them. It's definitely going to be a drafting circuit, As you can see from the lap times coming out, with 45 minutes of racing to come, there's going to be plenty of laps. Mistakes are going to be very, very costly around this short, relatively non-technical, especially for Silverstone. It's some of the easier corners on the circuit, except for Luffield. The Brooklands Luffield section is the most likely one where we're going to get people caught out. You can see there just a little bit of a wiggle actually coming through Copse from Wadge, so he's not quite got it dialed in just yet. However, Lecky is currently setting pretty quick laps. Let's have a look at him as he looks as though he just runs onto the dirt there on the approach up to Maggots. That looks as though it might be Green Gaming perhaps ahead of him in the Monster Energy. Also just getting a little bit loose on that sort of entrance into Beckett's. Just the very first part of it. Mr. Ward stepping in 5th position, knocking Lecky down a position. So looking to get his name known within the Touring Car Championship on his debut here in the FMTCC. See these two cars coming side by side through the final corner. It's definitely possible. Plenty of lines to go through this wide GP circuit. As I said, all of the sections of this are used within the GP. So there's plenty of wiggle room. You can see 2 or 3 cars going wide, especially with these relatively narrow touring cars. You just have to make sure that you don't get caught out by anybody getting a little bit loose. So the Renault Megans will be a little bit cautious of some of the BMWs through some of the higher speed corners, that's for sure. Looking at Pro Fubby, just set a purple in Sector 3, 23.421 from Pro Fubby. Comes back into the pits, so maybe making some adjustments or maybe coming in for some fresh tyres. Despite the amount of laps, I've been told by some of the drivers that they expect the tyres to just about last. They're going to be pushing them to the very limit of what's possible through this race. So you may see some mistakes just come towards the end. However, the touring cars, although they start to lose time, they're not quite as punishing with the tyre wear for loss of grip as you might get with some of the higher power championships that we run, GT1s especially. Once your tyres are gone, it gets very, very leery out on track. We're just focusing now on the console as we see him setting best lap deltas in Sector 1. Just coming through the Maggots section now, getting through some traffic. He'll want to make sure he keeps that right-hand pedal planted to the floor, not losing out on any time. You can see a few people there out in front. Looks as though Kovkar flashing the lights, just allowing all of that traffic to move on past, and the console goes purple in Sector 1. He's actually gone green in Sector 2, so this is going to be an improvement. He's 3.5 tenths back from Pro Fubby at the moment. Let's see whether or not he can build upon that as he comes around the final corner. Looking to pick up a draft as well from, I think it's Kovkar ahead of him. Oh no, I beg your pardon, it's a Monster Energy. Looks as though the console did make an improvement on that, but I'm not seeing any movement at all on my lap screen. I wonder whether or not it was whether or not that lap was invalidated. So Pro Fubby in provisional pole position, 57.894 the time for these guys to beat. Nobody really getting within touching distance as of yet. Consoles come the closest though, 3 tenths back, with Wadge just over 4 tenths, and then Lecky as well, just over 4 tenths back. 5th place at the moment for Al Axon. He'll be looking to try and challenge Lecky or Wadge and really get his best foot forward. We've not seen the best of finishes for Al so far this season, and any of those that watched last season's events in the touring car know that he's got much more pace than he's been showing. I think a little bit unfortunate in some of the situations. We've seen him spinning out and facing the wrong way, getting himself involved in a couple of mistakes, which is uncharacteristic for Al, but looks as though he might be well placed for a strong finish here at the Silverstone National Circuit. Pro Fubby though going even quicker into Sector 14.247. That is only 0.005 of a second slower than the console's current Sector 1 record. So this is going to be an improvement if Profubby can keep this up. Just coming into the Brooklyn section now, which is going to be catching everybody out. You can see it's more just about your line position. You don't want to overbrake yourself. You also don't want to carry too much speed, or this car will just understeer through that rather tricky Luffield section. Up through Woodcote now. Just to get as close to that barrier as he can. Use all of the road on exit, and as he comes across the line, it is an improvement, not by much. Lecky, meanwhile, has got himself all the way up alongside Profubby on the front row. Second place at the moment. 58.180 from Lecky, not too far away at all. The console gets moved down into third position. We see a little bit of bump drafting, it seems, going on there. Let me just check which car that is. I think it is the Monster Energy. It is. It's Green Gaming at the moment. Behind Profubby, looks as though he's just ahead of Old Smoky and that green Actrol Vision livery. As we see him running wide, that's what I mentioned earlier, just carrying too much speed. Through Brooklands, ends up getting it a little bit wrong for Luffield. And in the race situation, that could see you losing 2 or 3 places with how tightly packed these drivers are going to be. Look at one of the reserve drivers in the form of Mr. M. Ward. Wardy running in that number 66 SRT. Whereas we've got Spankmeyer in the 65, I believe, but still the same livery. So keep an eye out for the mirrors. It's going to be the mirrors that separate them, I believe. Red mirrors for Spankmeyer and white mirrors for Wardy. Just noticing some familiar faces on the stream this evening. Good to see you all. Flatpack currently tucked up at home, and we've seen an amazing performance from him in race 2. Unfortunately, couldn't stick it out for the rest of the season, but maybe next season we'll see him battling with the rest of the guys up on in the top half of the table. And some stats for you as well from this season. It's been really interesting. 3 different winners in 3 different races. We're now at the halfway point. This is where it will start to get interesting, and that stat could fail. However, Lecky is looking pretty strong here. He'll be looking to try and pick up his first win of the season. But Lecky's had a bit of a bad run of form in terms of his finishing positions. Did really well last time out with his second place. But interestingly, 2 fastest lap bonus points so far this season. Also, the console not managed to get any fastest laps, which is rather interesting compared to last season's performance from him. However, he did manage to pick up a pole position in race 1, I believe it was. Profubby, meanwhile, 1 fastest lap and 2 pole positions. I can put my teeth back in. Looks as though he's well set in the final 7.5 minutes for yet another pole position. Looking pretty good so far. Very busy out on track at the moment. All but 1 driver in the form of Spankmeyer out on track. The 16th driver is myself, so pay no attention to that. We've got a track full at the moment. We've got quite a bit of traffic as well. Currently just coming through Beckett's. Running up the Wellington Straight. There'll be plenty of drafting opportunities there. And this will benefit all of those drivers if they can stick within that particular time. Let's have a look. See if we can get onto, we can see there Lecky as a focus on him and that black and yellow Momo. That's Kovkarl behind him. You can see plenty of cars ahead. He was actually at the back of the pack. You can see the console's pink Actrol Vision just ahead. Let's have a look as he comes around. Let's focus on the console. You can see him moving his way through some traffic there. I think that might be Casey Redwood's Horbsner Automotive livery ahead of him. As though he's just moving alongside, and the console not a fan of this track at all. This is one of the ones that he can't wait to get away from. He's been cursing my name in and out of the staff room and he just wants to get this one over and done with, but he's currently running pretty good. Second row so far, third place, and looks as though the BMWs are actually out of sight, really. DJ and 74 Leggy, the two Leggies currently running in 10th and 11th. The BMWs will get a great start off the line, but running in 10th and 11th position, I don't think they're going to be able to challenge the front few rows. They'll just make up quite a lot of points on the way up to Copse. 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining inside this session, and look how tight they are. This is how the race is going to be. Expect all of them running a nice long draft train. So whilst we enter the final 5 minutes, let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect on Flux Motorsport TV. Whoa, as we see Lecky there running wide on the exit of Copse. Strange what happened there. He must have just caught a little bit of dirt to spin himself around, coming up the inside of the exit. But no harm, no foul. He managed to avoid any contact. So don't forget, you'll be able to join Lecky on Thursday for the GT1 Championship this week, running around Brands Hatch. You can join us live from 8 PM UK time for that one, with Lecky and McToasty in the commentary booth for that. Then on Friday nights, 8 PM Eastern Standard Time, which is about 1 o'clock in the morning here in the UK, you can watch our GTEs taking it around Indianapolis Road Circuit. And then back into a GMT time zone, the LMP2s hosted by Giacomo. And this week, heading around Sportsland's Sugo circuit. That one's going to be very, very interesting in a championship that is opened right up. And then the IndyCars are heading around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Oval Circuit. If you're an IndyCar fan, you definitely don't want to miss that one. It's going to be action-packed and probably full of carbon fibre. That is coming to you live 8 PM Eastern Standard Time, around about 1 AM Sunday morning here in the UK. And then the GT3s, of course, Sunday evening here in the UK, take on Fuji Speedway for round 4, and that'll be followed later on in the evening, or 8 PM Eastern Standard Time, for the stock cars, also taking on Indianapolis's Motor Speedway Oval Circuit. So 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Doesn't look as though we've got any movers and shakers. They all look pretty well planted. I wonder whether or not the track is just slowing down a little bit. You can see Pro Fubby's not been able to build upon his 57.866, which he set quite a number of laps ago. We are currently tracking his number 55 Emochi. Around there, you'll see plenty of that yellow and blue liveried Renault Megane throughout this race, I'm sure. Looking really well poised to pick up his third pole position so far this season. Lecky's into the pits. We might see some late dashes out of the pits. It's not that slow of a cold outlap, so we might see quite a few drivers coming into the pits, fresh rubber, reduced fuel, and closing up the radiators for a final bite at the cherry. Let's have a look so far at what the Beamers can handle around here. We focus on DJ Leggy, younger of the two, in the yellow mirrored I-back BMW. Be able to differentiate him from his father. 74 Leggy currently in 11th place. That'll have red branding and red mirrors. Other than that, looks pretty much identical. I think that might be Deadly Hawk as well. It is behind in the mist BMW. Looking rather battered and bruised there. Definitely come into contact with some of the walls here. It's probably here at Woodcote, to be fair. We see him there, very cautious on the entry. So it looks as though the BMWs are struggling for pace. I'm not too surprised, to be honest. It's more of a high grip corner. They'll be able to open the taps a little bit more next week when we end this British stop of the touring cars. Head on over to Germany for our European final 4 races, starting off with Oschersleben A course. Oh, as we see the console just putting a bit of dirt on the track just to make things interesting in this final minute or so. We'll focus over to Waj in his pristine Hokkien. It looks as though he's just come out of the pits, warming up those tyres. That's Green Gaming that's just coming around, followed by, I think it might be Pro Fubby actually, just coming up the rear. And you'll be able to tell as well if a guy's got his lights on, that usually means he's on for his hot lap. Lights off, usually out on an out lap, cold, or maybe they've ruined the lap and they'll tend to let people past. This is where Waj proves me wrong though, and we won't see any lights go on as he begins his hot lap. It is going to be the final one. Do believe that we've got Pro Fubby not too far behind him either. So let's have a look what can happen here. I am looking at the qualifying times. Seen improvements from Spankmeyer. He's actually moved up into 5th place. But other than that, we haven't had much movement at all on the qualifying times for quite a while. That Pat there rightly pointing out we've got 6 tenths separating out 7th and 1st position. And when you put it in full perspective, we've got just over 2 seconds separating 1st and 14th. If you think about the minor mistakes that could get made, especially through this little section here, that is not much time at all. I'm going to expect plenty of changes in position. Should a driver make a mistake, it's going to cost you really badly, especially if you slip outside of that slipstream. But as Waj comes across the line, it's not going to be an improvement from him. He returns to the pit. Looks as though Pro Fubby as well is done for the day. Can dust off his shoulder, knowing that he's done really well. Picks up his 3rd pole position of the season so far. And he did it early doors as well. So here is going to be your grid for tonight's 4th race at the Silverstone National. Pro Fubby tops it out with pole position, followed by Lecky in his 1st front row of the season, I believe. He starts up in 2nd place with the console running in 3rd, with Waj just behind him in 4th position. Spankmeyer onto the 3rd row with Kovkarl for company, followed by Al Axon in 7th place with M. Ward popping in for 8th. Jack de Menzies in 9th position. That's, I think, the worst qualifying that we've seen from Jack so far this season. He's got a BMW to contend with as well off the line in the form of DJ Leggy. He starts up in 10th. 74 Leggy in 11th place with Casey Redwood in 12th, followed by Old Smoky and Green Gaming with Deadly Hawks BMW at the back of the pack. So 2 minutes worth of tinker time, then we'll get this one sorted. In the meantime, let's have a little look. I retire, get myself down onto the grid, and let me remind you of the liveries for today's race. So Pro Fubby in the yellow and blue Emochi Racing liveried car, followed by Lecky in the number 2 Momo course, and the console, that pink black Actual Vision car, that is number 8 I believe, followed by Josh aka Waj. He's in the number 25 Hokkien Racing. Spankmeyer in the number 65 SRT Motorsport McGann, followed by Kovkarl in the, I can never remember the number of this, it's a PCCF Motorsport McGann. Al Axon in the number 12 Air Bubbles Renault, and then M. Ward in the 66 SRT Motorsport, that red and yellow livery. Jack de Menzies in the number 4 Zavima Racing Renault Megane, all the greens for him. And then the 2 Leggies, which we can just see in this picture, DJ Leggy with the yellow mirror tips, 74 Leggy with the reds. Casey Redwood is running the number 62 Horbsner Automotive, that blue and white livery. Then Old Smoky in the number 7 Actual Vision, black and green. Green Gaming in the Monster Energy, and then Deadly Hawk in the Mist BMW livery. 23 seconds remaining on this one, and then we're about to get this underway for 45 minutes of frantic action here at Silverstone National. Let me know your predictions for the race. It's going to be all to gain in turn 1. I bet those guys on the front 3 rows are glad that there's no BMWs, but here are the lights. And away they go. Looks to be a good start from the front two. This camera angle doesn't give me much to go off, but it looks as though Lecky's actually motored into first position really well, coming up into Copse. So good move from him. He's automatically gained 3/10 as well, as we see most drivers getting through cleanly. Yep, does look as though all of them through, and what a great angle that is. That shows how close it is as they come through Aintree into Maggots. All drivers do look as though they're still away and together. We can just see Deadly Hawk's BMW coming out the back there. So Lecky is built upon a great start here. Almost got half a second to Pro Fubby at the moment. Pro Fubby under pressure from the console, and Wadge left and right of him at the moment. Come through the final corner for the first time, and Lecky leads to Pro Fubby with the console all over the back of Pro Fubby at the moment. Let's jump on the cockpit of Wadge and have a look as we come through Copse. You can see the effects of the drag there. Looks as though Wadge has just lost out on a little bit of momentum onto the straight. In fact, he's lost out a little bit more momentum there, getting it very sideways, and that's going to see him slip away from the back of Pro Fubby and the console a little bit, put him into the grips of Spankmeyer and Wardy. You can see those two running those two SRT Motorsports right behind one another. Nothing separating them at the moment. It'd be very, very interesting indeed. It looks as though we've got a bit of a battle as well going on with Green Gaming and Deadly Hawk right at the back of the pack. Let's have a look at the rest of the drivers as we see them all making their way down the Wellington Straight. Looks as though we've got Alaxon making a move there on Jack Demenzi. He's got that move done, but is he going to hold it on the approach through Luffield? I don't think he is. Jack Demenzi's holding the inside line for Luffield. And it looks as though Alaxon's actually going to come under pressure from Old Smoky. Is a great move there from Alaxon. Moves up onto the inside of Woodcote. And he's surely going to get that move done on the way up into Copse. He's going to have to be brave and just send it. Does indeed. It looks as though maybe just a bit of a lift off, as he knew that there could be contact there. So Jack Demenzi takes 8th position ahead of him, and they're going to have to continue that battle throughout these upcoming laps. It looks as though the battle between first, second and third has evened out a little bit, as we see that's Old Smoky, I believe, getting a little bit loose on the exit there of on the entrance to the Wellington Straight. Jack Demenzi's now trying to build upon that gap to Alaxon by challenging Kovkarl. Wadge currently in 5th position. Looks as though he's been overtaken by Spankmeyer, and he's also got Wardy as well, fast approaching, just 6/10 down, and he's gaining every single time. I wonder whether or not Wadge has actually got his gear ratio a little bit wrong. It seems as though he seems to lose time on the exit of Woodcote through the start-finish straight. He seems to just lose a couple of tenths there, which doesn't sound much, but in just a 57-second lap, that's going to start to build up quite rapidly as he makes his way onto the Wellington Straight. Looks as though Wardy now is almost going to pick his pocket on the braking into Brooklands. Has got that done indeed, and they come together actually. Bit of a mistake there from Wadge. Just didn't notice that Wardy was up the inside, and mistake from him. Wardy gets the better of it. Wadge looks as though he takes that position back momentarily. Is he going to hold it through Woodcote? See the experience of Wardy there. He actually made sure that he stuck to quite a deep line to try and hold up as much of that momentum as possible, but he's now under pressure from Kovkarl. Kovkarl wants to go bumper to bumper, and Jack Demenzi's is waiting in the wing, as well as Alaxon. So this is what I mean in the qualifying. Any sort of mistake, and you're going to find yourself with plenty of cars right up your trumpet looking to try and capitalise on it. So Wadge remains in 5th place. That is Kovkarl now making the move up on Wardy. Looks as though he might get that move done on the outside temporarily, but Jack Demenzi's is also having a little look into the braking here into Brooklands. That sees Wardy stem them both off, but Jack Demenzi's runs a little bit deep. That's going to leave him open to Kovkarl. Kovkarl moves up into 7th place, and Jack Demenzi's now in pressure from Alaxon. right behind. Looks as though he's managed to shut that door before losing out on yet another place. They begin lap 7 now, and it's just all to play for. Pro Fubby, meanwhile, I do beg your pardon, there's been so much action down the back of the pack that we've missed out on Pro Fubby taking first position from Lecky. Lecky's actually dropped down into third place now, so the console is sandwiched in between them, remaining in third position. Not much distance behind them, but it is going to take a mistake from Pro Fubby, I think, to try and lose any of that momentum, and I don't think we've seen one all season round. Super consistent driver, Pro Fubby, and it's going to be a rarity if he does make a mistake. Let's see what happens though. Got 40 minutes worth of driving, just around about 40 minutes worth of lapping, and tyres will wear down. You can see there that optimum line, he's almost clipping his wing mirror on the Armco through Woodcote, running nice and wide as well, using all of that track. Meanwhile, let's get back to this action as we just tune in at the right time. Looked as though Wardy was about to make a move up on wide. He actually runs a little bit deep for it, and that's going to allow Jack de Menzies to come on through. Al Axon in tow as well, looking to pick up all the pieces as we see a big mistake there from Jack de Menzies. Looks as though he just the car snapped away from him. That's seen him fall down into 9th place, but we also see Al Axon move up into 7th. Great battle for 5th position this. These drivers are going to be changing places all the way through it. I can already tell. See Al Axon there getting his line a little bit wrong. Runs deep. That allows Kovkarl to come through up into 6th position. Wardy's also fallen back as well. Let's have a look what happened to him. Looks as though he's lost momentum, and Jack de Menzies has actually taken that back, so I wonder if there was a bit of contact between the two. And that's actually a bit of track etiquette there, allowing the driver to take the position back. That will be interesting. But it's cost both of them, definitely. They now find themselves around about 4 seconds back from the pack of Waj, Kovkarl and Al Axon. Meanwhile, looks as though Lecky is about to come under pressure. Let's have a look as we come through. Spankmeyer working his way up. Also, the console is slipped to around about 2 seconds back. But you can see Lecky there just hanging in the draft of that pink Actual Vision car, looking to try and make up some split time to it. It's currently sat at around about a second or so. Spankmeyer also around about 1.5 seconds there or thereabouts between these. Kovkarl, meanwhile, has just moved up into 5th position. He's been able to take that position from Waj, and Waj is now under a bit of extra pressure. Should he lose out on any time battling to try and take that one back. You see Al Axon just looking to pounce on it, sitting in the slipstream. Get back up front. I will keep my eye out on all of the movers and shakers through the timing boards. So it is Pro Fubby leading to the console with Lecky in 3rd position. Spankmeyer looks as though he's just fallen away ever so slightly in 4th place. And then we've got to go around about 5 seconds back to Kovkarl. Oh, big mistake there from the console. Locks up his rear wheels, and that's put him under plenty more pressure from Lecky, it seems. Maybe just under-braked himself. Once again, something I called the entrance to Brooklands. Maybe just carried a bit too much speed, ended up jabbing at the brakes to try and slow himself down, and that rear end just spat right out. He did really well to catch it, but he's now got a black and yellow Momo all over his mirrors, and Lecky will be keen to try and take that one back and build upon what has been a bit of a recovery in his season. 2 not so great starts from Lecky. Got himself wrapped up in all sorts of bother in race 1. Race 2 was almost a write-off for him. Seemed as though the Snetterton wet weather just got his strategy all sorts of out of kilter. Did do very, very well though, getting a 2nd place last week at Alton Park's International Circuit, and looks as though he's well poised for a podium today as we see the console there picking up plenty of dirt. Could well be a slowdown penalty. I'm not too sure how much it punishes coming through there. Let's have a look at the timing boards whilst we're a little bit spread out. So penalties almost all around. Interesting as well, looks as though Wadge has got himself 8 seconds worth of penalty. Alaxon as well with 4 seconds so far. Lecky also with 4 seconds. So him taking that position isn't going to matter too much. He's going to have to build upon 2 seconds in order to actually take that position come the end. But Lecky does move up into second. Console falls back. Now he needs to make sure that he keeps on the back of Lecky, but also keeps out the grip of Spankmeyer. Spankmeyer moves ever closer. Let's have a look at what's going on between Kovkarl and Wadge so far. Kovkarl has the advantage because much less of a penalty. And Wadge having a little look up the inside on the approach to Brooklands. Kovkarl just running a little bit deep. It's not costing too much though. He's managed to get back onto the apex for the exit of Luffield as Wadge just moves up the inside. That is going to be job done from Wadge there on his way through Woodcote. Oh, maybe not. It looks as though Kovkarl just able to keep the speed up because Wadge couldn't use all of the road. It looks as though he scrubbed just a little bit off. Smart driving there from Kovkarl to make sure that he defends the position. Makes it very tricky for Wadge. And we can see there Jack de Menzies just behind 7th position at the moment. You can see his bright green Zavima just popping into the background of your screen. Now we can see Kovkarl going defensive here, trying to block the line slightly. All fine on the straights. There'll only be one direction permitted, and that's why we see Wadge move up to the inside and Kovkarl barely touch, but then the cars do come together. Wadge just needs to be a little bit careful. He's been super aggressive through this, and considering he's got a bit of penalty racked up on the board, he's going to struggle to keep these drivers at bay, or at least keep them out of the stewards' inquiries if he's too aggressive. Looked as though that was well within general touring car standards, but we will wait and see. So Pro 4B continues to lead the race. Lecky in second, the console in third. Spankmeyer in 4th position. He's round about a second off the back of the console at the moment. Let's have a look over to those as we see our top 4 all within view in the Wellington Straight. And you can just see as well Wadge and Kovkarl just coming around the back, and Jack de Menzies also. Running to the back markers, looks as though Wardy is around about 3 seconds off the back of Jack de Menzies at the moment. Alaxon in 9th position as well, not too far away at all from Wardy. Old Smokey running quite well at the moment in 10th. Pretty sure I just saw a change of position then. Yep, it was Wadge taking that position back from Kovkarl. So we see, maybe it was my eyes deceiving me, but yep, these two continuing their battle out. We just saw Kovkarl there having a little look into Cops, thinks about it again, falls back in line. He'll come at him the next time around, I'm sure of it. So I was up to Old Smokey in 10th, then DJ Ledgy in 11th, Casey Redwood in 12th, 74 Ledgy in 13th, followed by Green Gaming and Deadly Hawk. Currently 40 and 46 seconds away from the leader. So just about to be lapped. This is where things will get interesting, especially when they've got to try and get around a train of cars. Have to move well out of the way for our front runners, and that could see them losing bags and bags of time. It looks as though the pace of the race is starting to settle down a little bit. Most drivers settling into a 58-second lap now. That's where we'll see tyre preservation going in a little bit. Some drivers just easing off, but also defending as well, which is going to cost them plenty of time. So Wadge still stemming off Kovkarl, but Jack de Menzies is getting a little bit closer. Looks as though McToasty also recognising that Wadge is just losing out that little bit of momentum with his gear ratios coming up to the straights. Let's have a look here actually. Let's go into the chase cam of Kovkarl. Don't usually use the chase cam, but you can see there Kovkarl just able to breeze right through after the slipstream. Wadge gets back onto the defensive, but that's going to put him under pressure from Jack de Menzies. He actually makes a great move up into the inside through Luffield there. And Kovkarl's going to do well to hold on to this one. He's going to have to use all of the exit. And Jack Menzies having a little look up, so it looks as though Kovkar has got the inside line for Woodcote, and he's got that move done. Great positioning from Kovkar there, smart driving, and now it looks as though Jack Menzies up the inside. He takes that position away from Wadge. Wadge drops down into 7th position, so just in a matter of 2 corners, we see Wadge losing out on 2 track positions just because of drivers able to use the nous and use the layout of this circuit. So many overtaking opportunities on entrance through the corner and corner exit of this circuit. So Kovkar now in 5th position, Jack Menzies in 6th, Wadge in 7th, and actually this little trio battle that we've got going on as well is allowing Alax and Old Smoky and Wardy to get involved as well. We can just see them in the background as they just come up to the break-in of Brooklands. So all go here in the FMTCC as it's been all season long, and if you've missed any of the races from the season, then you can catch up either by watching our highlight videos, which are generally around about 15 minutes of our summary, just packed into when you're eating your lunch or perhaps having a little bit of a comfort break. Slap one of those on, catch up with the season at your leisure. You'll find them all within our YouTube page in a channel playlist, or you can watch the full-blown thing to make sure that you didn't miss out on any of the action. Did just see Kovkar there making a big mistake. That's seen Jack Menzies move on through, and it's also seen Wadge move up into 6th position. So Jack Menzies builds upon that. Kovkar now, he's got it all to chase for. Looked as though he got the break in Aintree, which is the little kink just before Maggots. Seemed to get that wrong, and his car got spat out. However, we see Wadge there running very wide. Same with Kovkar. I wonder if tyre temperatures are maybe having a bit to play in here, as we start to see the cars getting very, very sideways. So that pack now splits off. Jack Menzies in a comfortable 5th position so far, and he'll try and keep it relatively cool, calm and collected. Let's have a look at what Al Axon's doing. He's getting challenged at the moment by Old Smoky. Old Smoky's really turned his season around. He is currently 10th in the championship standings. He's only got 26 points, but we've seen some really good racing from him. Just needs to get this consistency dialed in, and we should see a really strong second half to the season from him. Perhaps it's the Actual Vision livery spurring him on, but he certainly had a much better start to the season than he did last, and really looking to build some momentum inside the touring cars. Pro 4B though continues to lead this race. Interesting as well, and I have missed this, but Spankmeyer has since gone into 3rd position. The console falls back into 4th, and I did tell you that he didn't like this track. Let's have a look at where Pro 4B is in relation to any of the traffic that we might have out ahead. Looks as though he's got past 2 back markers in recent corners. That's likely to be Green Gaming and Deadly Hawk. Now in plenty of clear air, and he'll just want to try and keep that split time between himself and Lecky balanced. He's not going to want to push the car too hard, burn out his tyres or risk a mistake, but he's also not going to be able to lift off that much. Otherwise he's going to have Lecky breathing all down his neck, as Lecky looks as though he's just moved up through some of that back marker traffic. In fact, it looks as though he's just got Green Gaming to come here on the way through Woodcote. Green Gaming moves over to the inside. Makes it nice and easy for Lecky, it seems. As we see Spankmeyer there just making his way past Deadly Hawk. Deadly Hawk's BMW falls back in line. And next on the agenda is overtaking the back marker of Green Gaming. Let's get back to some of this action that we have going on. For 7th position, Kovkar holding off Old Smoky and Wardy at the moment. In fact, holding off Al Axon and Old Smoky. I beg your pardon, Wardy's about 4 seconds back. In fact, there's Wardy just popping into your screen. Does look as though Al's moved up onto the inside. He's got that move done on Old Smoky. Is he going to be able to hold it through the Wellington Straight? Looks as though his line is good. Let's get into the chase cam of Old Smoky. Have a look at the different lines that these guys are taking. We can see Old Smoky there just doing some corrective steering. Looks as though he's got his line a bit messed up, but he moves over to the outside. Needs to make sure he doesn't make any contact with Al. looks as though it was nice and clean, but Al retains the position, and Kovkarl actually builds upon his lead above these two just because of the battling that's going on. Little God noticing on the stream that Lecky and Profubby are currently going blow for blow in terms of lap times here. Profubby last time around 58.852, whereas Lecky putting in a 58.659. Very close indeed, but not as close as the action that's going on here as we see Old Smoky gets a load of curb there. Back end spits out. He manages to catch it nicely. I mean, he barely lost anything. Will be a little loss in momentum as those plucky French front wheels try to get a hold of the grip. But you can see there, barely lost out any distance off the back of Al Axon as we see Kovkarl moves over to the side. Allows Al Axon to move on through. Let's see how they take the approach through Woodcote. Looks as though Al Axon's got the inside line. Kovkarl making the outside work for him. Oh, and Old Smoky getting very, very leery there. I could see a terrible accident cropping up, but Kovkarl's actually lost out on a lot of time. That's screaming slow down to me, because Old Smoky's now moved up into 7th position. Kovkarl retains his 8th place, but it's still side by side as they come through Aintree. All to play for here between 7th, 8th and 9th. Meanwhile, looks as though it's still around about a 5-second lead between Lecky and Profubby. Well, Profubby and Lecky, should I say. Lecky just losing out a little bit that last time around. Lap 23 with 23 minutes to go, so we can probably expect the same again. We're going to be running up to around about 46 laps through this race. Definitely a battle of the back markers so far. Let's have a look over to Spankmeyer at the moment. I do beg your pardon as well. Looks as though Lecky has fallen back from Spankmeyer. I wonder if that was a big off. We'll see in his lap times as it comes around. But yep, Lecky lost around about 6 seconds in Sector 1 there. So it looks as though we just tuned in after Lecky had recovered from a big off. Also Lecky losing out in Sector 2 as well. Let's have a look over to Lecky. Let's see if there's any damage to that car. There is indeed. Some aerodynamic adjustment going on to that front end, and I wonder if this could be a sort of end of those quick lap times from Lecky. We see a 1:07.262. We also see a bad lap time from the console as well. 1 minute and 4.3 coming in from him. Just having a look as well. Looked as though mistakes in the second sector from him, although my telemetry screen hasn't updated. Let me just reset that. So it's Profubby leading to Spankmeyer, our newest addition to the FMTCC. If you want to see what this means to the championship standings, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, all three if you're really greedy, and we'll be putting up the championship standings as soon as they come in, as well as giving you all of the information for the upcoming races of the week, including our overtake of the race section as well. Keep your eye out for those. We love to read your comments, especially when you're involved in some of them. So let's have a look what we've got here. The console looks as though we've been able to build upon Lecky and his mistake. Looking at his sector times, Lecky does look as though he's recovered them, so he's going to be able to maintain at least position. No serious damage done if he's able to keep up those sort of lap times. But the console moves over to the outside. He's going to try and as we see Lecky there getting very, very sloppy. That looks as though it's big, either let through or a slowdown penalty. So the console moves back up into third place. As I bring up the timing boards, 4 seconds penalty each for both of these two. Waj, meanwhile, 18 seconds. That is huge. That's going to see him drop right down his position. You're going to need to build on that massively if he can. Kovkarl also with a noticeable 10 seconds so far in this race. Let's have a look what those guys are up to. Waj currently in 6th place. You can see the lead that he's got to Old Smoky, Alaxon and Kovkarl. But that lead is going to seriously diminish come the end of this, and once they cross over that checkered flag. Look, between this battle that's been going on all the way through, the drivers have changed somewhat throughout the course of this race, but a battle for 7th place has been prominent through this race. Old Smoky currently leading that battle, but Alaxon just having a little look up the inside on the approach to Brooklands. Looks as though he's going to get that one done, but we've seen this from Old Smoky coming back again. He just needs to get himself over to that inside. Looks as though he's not going to be able to do it. And Kovkarl, meanwhile, will lap this up. We've seen Kovkarl know exactly which line to take to try and get the drive on them. So that's Alaxon up the inside. He's not going to be able to use all the track, and that's going to allow Kovkarl to jump onto the back of Old Smoky and maybe do it next time around through Cops. In fact, Alaxon moves up into 7th place. Let's see whether or not he can retain it on exit. And there is Kovkarl just moving left and right just to try and build upon that as they come up through Aintree into Maggots, through Beckett's, and it's not changed so far. It's still Alaxon ahead of them. Jump into the cockpit of Kovkarl. We can also see Wardier as well, waiting in the wings, looking to try and get hold of that. Hopefully still leading this race, 11 seconds currently to Spankmeyer. The console 7 seconds back from that. But battles going on throughout the course, throughout this race as well, as we see a bit of a messy line that time from Kovkarl. Got a load of dirt, that's going to cost him a little bit, but you see him just falling in line here through Woodcote. Tries to hold on to the draft, as does Old Smoky. Hard onto the brakes for Cops. Looks as though somebody locked up. It looked as though that was tyre smoke from Alaxon. Locking up the brakes on his left hand side, front left from Al. Maybe just misjudged his braking. Had to correct it somewhat. Look what's going on back here in 4th position between Jack de Menzies and Lek at the moment. Lecky has lost time over these last few laps. I think I might have to eat my previous comment. I think the damage is costing him. He was able to maintain a couple of laps, but maybe it's just putting a little bit of extra pressure on those tyre temps, and now he looks as though he's getting a little bit loose. So Jack de Menzies moves up into 4th position, and he's only 2 seconds from the back of the console now, and he's building quite rapidly on that. He almost a second, and well, what he was over a second quicker through lap 28. You see the way that he just attacks Maggots there, and Beckett, sorry, and then looks to try and get the drive on. Just have a look at the split times. Let me have a look here. Definitely need to reset that once again, but split times currently around about wow, we're looking at half a second. It's even less than that through Luffield. Let's get on board with Jack de Menzies. Remember, we've got a pad driver here in the form of Jack, and then the console running on a G29. Keep your eye out on how smooth Jack can maintain his steering here. See, it's almost as though he's using a wheel. And that's what you'll notice with some of the quicker pad drivers, able to maintain that steering wheel position, come into that very, very tricky section. Even watching it in the cockpit, I still want to sort of come through that Maggots-Beckett section on the GP circuit. Feels really unnatural to keep on turning right there for me. You see him just trying to position himself, and that looks as though Deadly Hawk is sitting this one out, not having a good race at all. In fact, not having a good start to his touring car career here. Saw him quite a few minutes back in the last race at Oulton Park. Looks as though he's going to be a couple of minutes down on this one too. As this battle hots up, we've got plenty of battles still going on. That battle for 7th place currently being held off by Old Smoky, but Old Smoky now right onto the back of Wadge. We'll have a look at what goes on between the console and Jack de Menzies, but we do see Old Smoky just move up the inside of Wadge. Wadge runs a little bit wide. That's going to allow Kovkarl and Al Axon to move on up through. And that is job done from them. So small mistake from Wadge there, just costs him badly as they come up to that braking. Keeps it nice and clean, no contact to speak of there. And now it's the drag through the Wellington as we see Lecky there currently off-roading in that black and yellow Momo. Quite an obviously damaged car, that. See him falling back in line, but Lecky is probably going to have to come into the pits, I think. He's losing that much time. He might just be able to get in there for a quick damage repair and ensure that he doesn't lose out too much, because he'll be able to put the hammer down. Currently lapping around about 2 seconds quicker than some of the back runners. Old Smoky moves up into 5th position. Great drive from Old Smoky. Now looking to secure his best finish of the season and really give his championship standings points a real boost. He'll almost double his championship standing points should he be able to secure this 5th place finish. Oh, as we see a huge mistake there from Wadge, clatters the outside wall, manages to get it back on track, but that is going to be some front left suspension damage, I guarantee it, and that's going to put him under further pressure from Al Axon, and maybe even Casey Redwood able to get into this if he manages to build upon his time. You can just see Casey Redwood coming onto the Wellington straight there in the background, so it'll depend on how badly damaged Wadge's car is. Al Axon did lap a 102 that last lap around, but I do suspect that that was maybe just because he's battling in traffic and trying to make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes. See Wadge there moving up the inside of Wardy. Wardy running nice and deep, but looks as though Wadge is going to hold the inside line into Copse. He'll be able to be brave throughout it. Yep, he is, but he's not held it. Gets very sideways, and Al Axon just manages to avoid that. That would have been a huge accident. And a nail in the coffin really to the bad luck of the season so far for Al Axon. So 5th place now is Old Smoky, due to that move that when we join these this pack of 4 or 5 cars, followed by Kovkarl Lecky, it looks as though he's stabilised himself now into 7th position, and he's got a bit of gap now to Wadge in 8th. Wadge and Al Axon currently trading places. Wardy's waiting in the wings, as well as we see Wadge there getting very wide as well, just manages to avoid that contact between Al Axon. Wadge has quite clearly got some damage here, and I do wonder whether or not it was with that contact with the wall, but struggling so much on the sort of big turning corners. As soon as that suspension seems to get used, it just gives up and his rear just steps away from him. Let's have a look at how he is on the exit of Copse. And we see him, looks as though he's just understeering the car a little bit purposefully, just to make sure that it doesn't step away. So it looks as though heavy steering may be affecting it. We'll keep focused on him, see how he does into the braking of Beckett's. Looking much smoother this time from Wadge. Wardy in 9th place though, Al Axon in 8th. You see there Lecky, Kovkarl and Old Smoky up ahead. So in that battle for 3rd place, the console is still holding off Jack de Menzies. Two very, very friendly rivals going on, but they will be giving each other as much grief as they can before and after the race. Mind games playing the toll there, but Jack de Menzies, after what was, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, a pretty bland qualifying from him, has got himself right up in the mix for some serious points here at Silverstone. And that's just through consistency. 59 second laps have paid dividends for Jack de Menzies. Let's see whether or not my telemetry system can actually reboot, as we see Kovkarl has taken that place coming onto the Wellington from Old Smoky. Old Smoky now drops down into 6th place. Slight mistake, I think, from Old Smoky through would have been Beckett's and Maggott's. Just costing him ever so slightly. Telemetry's back up. Let's have a look at what sort of sector times we've got getting put in. So 10 minutes remaining of this one. I feel pretty bad for Pro Fubby. He's had an absolute stonking race. 10 seconds lead within the first 20 or so laps. He's since just balanced that out, kept himself running sweet. We go over to him now as he overtakes Deadly Hawk, I think, for the third. Would it be the third time? Looks as though it might just be the third time round. He's got 2 seconds worth of penalty, so he looks as though he's safe from Spankmeyer. Spankmeyer's currently got a 13-second lead to try and get up, so it'll be 11 seconds in total. Jack de Menzies, meanwhile, has racked up the penalty, 7 seconds in total, so he's going to have to build upon at least 2 seconds to the console, as he has since taken third position. Kovkarl also with a noticeable penalty in 10th, and then we see Waj with 27 seconds on the board. That's going to punish him pretty heavily if he falls out of position, so it looks as though he's actually going to finish in 13th place overall, Waj, come the end of this one. Get back over to Jack de Menzies and the console. 8 minutes and 55 seconds remaining here. Two drivers duking it out, trying to get the final podium spot. Trading sector times between the two as we see Jack de Menzies, they're just using the runoff, it seems. Made a big mistake. Just looking down at my telemetry, so I missed that one, but I'm sure the comments will fill me in on what happened. Beg your pardon on that. I just noticed some purple telemetry times coming in. Look back up and all of a sudden Jack's on a track of his own. Jack holds the line for Copse, ahead of the console. Looks as though he's able to nail that. We see just a little cheeky flash of the lights. Looks as though he's thanking him. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe there was contact between the two. And that's why we saw Jack off track. Let's get back into this action though. This is where it's been at pretty much all the way through the race. Battles for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th place. And look how close it still is. Got a few extra drivers in that fray. Let's have a look, in fact, on the onboard of Wardy. Gives us a good idea about how much these guys are duking it out. All the different changes of position. So at the front of this we've got Old Smoky followed by Kovkarl. That's Lecky's Momo ahead. And then Al Axon in the black and green air bubbles, who looks as though he's just about to move up the inside into the braking for Brooklands. See all sorts of changes of position going on throughout all of these sections. So Kovkarl now moves up into 6th place. Al Axon now heading off Lecky. Two very nearly coming together, but Lecky just wise to it, just eases off the steering ever so slightly. He knows that he can get away with it and heads to the inside of Woodcote to try and get the run on Al. Come the end of the first corner. Go back trackside, so Old Smoky continues this battle lead. For 5th position, Kovkarl in 6th. So Al Axon in 7th with Lecky, and then Wardy in 9th place. Meanwhile, Wadge has fallen right off the back of these. You could just see his car slip into shot. Bit toasty there, filling me in, I think. Yep, so it looks as though there was a little bit of contact between Jack and the console, which saw Jack ended up just running off the course. And we see Kovkarl there absolutely eating an advertising hoarding there. This has just been music to Old Smoky's ears, really. He's been able to build up even more of a lead here, as we see Lecky now going defensive with Al Axon behind. Al Axon in the air bubbles. Looks as though Lecky's just shutting the door, and that's going to allow Kovkarl to move on through. As Kovkarl gets the drive unimpeded, he can just take all the track through that line and apply that pressure as Lecky moves up the inside through Copse. Gets that move done. Is he going to be able to hold it as we come through Aintree into Maggots? Looks as though he has. In fact, Al is now under loads of pressure from Kovkarl, and what a testament to touring car driving this is. We've seen so many changes of position, so many overtakes here, all of it pretty clean. I think all of the damage that you can see on these cars have been done by themselves through mistakes. And looks as though Lecky just loses the rear end. Just manages to catch it, though he was going to get collected by Kovkarl there. Kovkarl wise to it, but a big dump of the brakes is maybe given Alex in a bit of an advantage, and Old Smoky is well set as we enter the final 5 minutes of this race. Have a little look over to Spankmeyer at the moment. You can see there, that is actually Jack de Menzies and the console battling behind them. But Spankmeyer almost sounds as though he's tickling that car. Bring up his speedo. No, it's just my sound here, but it sounded as though he was barely even revving. He is definitely still pushing it as much as he dares. Spankmeyer looks to get a great finishing position in this race. Just having a look through my list, I think he finished 6th last week at Oulton Park, and looks as though in his second race in the championship he's going to be picking up a podium. Jack de Menzies still has the advantage to the console as we bring up the timings. Let's have a look at those penalties. Jack de Menzies does need to build up 3 seconds, provided that the console doesn't get any further penalties come the end of this race. So it looks as though the console is set for that final podium spot, but we will tune into that a little bit later on as the race progresses through. Back to this battle. Old Smoky with the advantage at the moment. Al Axon has moved up into 6th place ahead of Lecky. Kovkarl has actually slipped down into 8th now and is under pressure from Wardy. Looks as though Wadge is actually going to come under pressure from Casey Redwood very shortly as well. Looks as though Wadge is now going to be in line for 14th place, I believe, depending on what his penalties are like. Oh no, he's just going to be outside of that. No, sorry, it still is 13th place for Wadge, providing that he's kept his nose, well, I'll say his nose clean. It's certainly not been with 27 seconds worth of penalty, but provided that that penalty count hasn't got any worse. Gap between Jack de Menzies and the console still remains pretty static, around about 5/10 there or thereabouts. Look what's going on between this battle as we see Casey Redwood trying to move up into the top 10. I believe that'll be his first top 10 finish of the season. 12th last time out for the Curb Clippers. Usually GT Sport driver, but he's definitely showing marked improvement inside Project Cars 2 in the touring cars. And that is the position done from Casey Redwood now. 10th place secured as we see Wadge's lap times falling away over the 1 minute mark now. 2 minutes remaining inside this race. Meanwhile, what is interesting is look at the gap now between Spankmeyer, Jack and the console. Spankmeyer's only got around about a second. These two drivers have got up very, very close indeed to the back of Spankmeyer over these last few laps. Maybe I spoke a little bit too soon for Spankmeyer being able to secure second place. He's going to have to battle for it. He's not under much pressure, I don't think, from Jack de Menzies, because Jack de Menzies does have a penalty count. I believe Spankmeyer is actually running no penalties. That is correct. No penalties to be applied by Spankmeyer. So based on that, with only 1 minute to go, does look as though he is going to be in line for a second, because the console and Jack both have penalties racked up. See both of the Ledgies running inside the BMWs. Looks as though we've just lost Deadly Hawk that last lap. So retirement, first retirement coming in with 1 minute to go. Oh, as we see Jack de Menzies there getting a little bit wrong. A little bit of paint exchange between him and Spankmeyer. And now it's all to play for in terms of track position. Spankmeyer will have to lose out on 2 seconds worth of split time here, though, in the final couple of laps. And he just loses the rear end. He manages to catch it. Well caught, that man, but looks as though he's going to try and open the taps here. Maybe just to try and secure 3rd place if he can build up a gap as Spankmeyer holds off the console. Good tactic here from Jack Menzies if he makes this one count. Allow those two to battle it out whilst he tries and builds as much as he can in this final couple of laps. Meanwhile, Pro Fubby just comes onto the Wellington Straight, so this could well be the final lap of the race. 15 seconds worth of time to go, so I think this is going to be Pro Fubby taking the checkered flag this time around as he moves around the back marker. In fact, that looks as though, yeah, I think that might be Casey Redwood. He's running very slow, I think, just to get out of the way from the race leader. But Pro Fubby, it's been an epic drive once again. Picked up his third pole position. I do believe as well he might well have the fastest lap of the race. We will check that at the end, but he does come home to secure his second victory in the FMTCC so far this season and remain on top of the standings going into round 5. Jack Menzies is going to come across the line next, but I'm not sure whether or not he's going to secure that position as Spankmeyer comes in across the line, a close second, and he does take second place. The console comes over and it looks as though that tactic from Jack Menzies really paid off. Looks as though he's been able to secure third place in the end. Al Axon getting the better of Old Smoky as we come around the final corner for the final time. 5th place from him, and the season is recovered well and truly for Al Axon. It'll be a very happy household after what was a bit of a dreary qualifying from him. Old Smoky doing very, very well to finish up in 6th place. Great drive from him. And as our final drivers cross over the line, let's have a look at those confirmed standings. So Pro Fubby takes the victory. 57.980 is the best lap on there. We will check that out against the other drivers, but I do believe that is going to be a triple crown for Pro Fubby in the form of pole position, fastest lap and the race victory. Spankmeyer finishes in 2nd with Jack Menzies in 3rd place. Looks as though the console just racked up a little bit too much of a penalty within those final couple of laps and then lost out to it. You can see there though, less than 6/10 difference, half a second difference altogether between the console and Jack Menzies for that final podium spot. Al Axon in 5th place ahead of Old Smoky. Wardy doing very well in his reserve drive to finish ahead of Lecky in the end, just because Lecky racked up so much of a penalty, it seems. Also, Casey Redwood gets his best finish of the season so far. 8th place for him. Good, consistent drive from Casey Redwood. Kovkar finishes in 10th, just behind Lecky by around about 5 seconds, so obviously lost out after sticking within that battle for so long. DJ Leggy in 11th place gets the best of his old man, who finishes up in 12th in the BMW. Wadge finishes in 13th place as expected due to the lengthy penalty sustained. In fact, I can just see there 14 seconds worth of penalty is what actually held Kovkar back. And then Green Gaming finishes at the back of the grid. 14th place from him though, so due to the retirement from Deadly Hawk, he's not at risk of losing out any additional points, but clean race from him, no penalties sustained, so that is definitely a bonus from the Canadian. So that is round 4. That is the halfway point of our season so far here in the FMTCC. If you've liked what we've produced and you don't want to miss any more, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're interested in picking up any of our merchandise from the newly launched Flux Motorsport shop, then head on over to our website. If you don't know it by now, you should do, but it's www.fluxmotorsport.com. We will put a link to it in the bottom of this video once it's been completed. That is also the place that you need to go if you are interested in joining this fantastic clean racing community. Whether or not you race on PS4 or PC and you just want to find some like-minded drivers, we don't mind, but we are only running on PS4 for the time being in our championships. Just head on over to the website, you'll find a link. All are welcome. You'll be asked to fill in a few bits of information and then welcomed by a member of our staff team. That's all for the Tuesday night Touring Car Championship. Once again, you'll be able to join Lecky for the GT1s on Thursday evening. He'll be bringing you that live and direct with McToasty, 8 p.m. UK time, which is around about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. GT1s taking on Brands Hatch this week, and I better go get my practice shoes on because I'm looking to try and get my name in and around the top 6 for that one. We'll wait and see though, after a dreary season from myself. That's all from me. Enjoy the rest of the week ahead. Stay safe wherever you're watching inside the world, and we'll see you all again next time around. Take care everyone, and good night.